microphone. Okay. I think it's working now. Let me check this setting as well. Alright. Alright. I think I've got the mic working. Let's check the next problem here. It looks like a math problem. This one's saying for each real number r, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the xy plane for the given system? Okay. Which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the xy plane for the given system? One thing I notice is that just comparing these two visually, the bottom equation is just 3 times the top equation. Like you see 8 to 24 times 3, 7 to 21, that's times 3, 9 to 27, that's times 3. So these are actually the same equation. So I'm just going to go through some of these answer choices and see what I can manage out of this. Like, for example, we can try answer choice A. If I plug in, right, these are all x, y coordinate pairs. So if I plug in, for example, answer choice A into my top equation, I would get 8 times r plus 7 times negative 8r over 7 plus 9 over 7 equals 9. Let's see if answer choice A is correct. So 8 times r is 8r. 7 times all of this, well, since these have a denominator of 7 everywhere, is going to be minus 8r and then plus 9 equals 9. And definitely I see here that 8r and minus 8r will cancel out. And I'm left with 9 equals 9, which is a true statement. That is answer choice A. Makes sense, I hope. Alright, what we've got next, it's not too bad. It's another reading standard English conventions types of question. So let's pick red for this one. This asking, which choice completes a text so it conforms to the conventions of standard English. Well, it says here a group of ecologists led by Axel Mithofer at the Max Planck Institute for Chemical Ecology in Germany examined the defensive responses of 2 varieties of the sweet potato plant, TN57, which is known for its insect resistance, and TN66, which is much more susceptible to pests. So if we look at that one, what I see here is that it's kind of setting us up for some background information in the first part of the sentence, and then after here it lists 2 of the examples of what they're actually investigating. So I could start to rule out some stuff, like I see a period and a semicolon in the same set of responses, so I can rule out both of those because those both function as a full stop, so they can't both be right. And besides, if we put a full stop right here like a period, then the part that follows would be a dependent clause. Dependent clause cannot stand on its own. A independent clause can, which is that first part. But that means we would want to follow this off with like a comma or a colon. And looking at the answer choices, I don't see comma. I see colon, which means we could use the first part of the sentence to set up our kind of introduction, put a colon, and then emphasize the information that comes after. C would not really work because we need some kind of punctuation there. All right. So next one. Honestly, guys, I think you can do this in like 1 second. What do you think the answer is? I'm going to circle A, and I'm going to hope that's what y'all would put too. 23% of 100. When we do percentages, like one key thing is that percent means per 100. So 23% is actually equal to 0.23, or 23 over 100. So if I multiply this times 100, where the word of means multiply, we just get back to 23. Yeah. And someone's asking about the last question. So we need punctuation here because we have, if we didn't have any punctuation, it would be a run-on sentence. We want some way to separate the first part, the independent clause. So in blue, I have the independent clause. And what follows it in pink is a dependent clause. So you need some kind of punctuation to separate those two clauses, just based on standard English conventions. Okay, while you guys read this one, I really need to take a sip of water. To me, this looks like a system of linear inequalities. I think we should take it step by step and kind of just analyze what's going on with all the different numbers. What I see is that a supplier will deliver no more than 300 pounds in a shipment. Well, all of the answer choices are already kind of set up for that. We have the less than or equal to. So that, let me color code all this. So that's correct. That's correct. So we're gonna have to look for other clues. Each container of detergent weighs 7.35 pounds. Each container of fabric softener weighs 6.2 pounds. D is a number of detergent, and S is a number of fabric softener. So then I know, well, those are kind of already set up for that as well. Last clue that we have here is that the service wants to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. That's probably our trickiest scenario here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is eliminate C and D because the numbers are not correct here, right? We want 7.35 D, and we want 6.2 S because those are the numbers that we saw in the problem. The fact that we're trying to get double the number, or at least twice as many containers of detergent as fabric softener, that's going to be represented with the second part, which is either D is greater than 2S or 2D is greater than S. You might be inclined to choose something like B here, right? Twice as many detergents as fabric softeners, but this is not the correct setup actually. This is not correct. Reason being, let me take a look here. What this is saying is that you're multiplying the number of detergents by 2. So if you had like, let's say 5 detergents, this would be multiplied by 2, and then the number of softeners would have to be 10 to make this inequality true. But that doesn't match up with this scenario, which is what we want at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. So actually D should be larger than 2S. D, the number of detergent containers, should be equal to or greater than double the number of fabric softeners. This would make sense. Like if D was equal to 10, then the fabric softener could be equal to 5 containers. That would make sense. You have more detergent than you have fabric softener. And that's why A would be the correct answer choice here. I guess we can move on to the next question. Okay, another systems of equations, except it's equalities this time. It's not too bad to approach systems of equations. There's actually many different ways you could do it, and sometimes they set it up very easily for one way or another. In this case, I see prominent method of elimination. It's very set up for elimination. Here you go. It's very set up for elimination because you could just add both of these equations together. Or I guess let me rewrite it. Negative x plus y equals negative 3.5. And we get x plus 3y is equal to 9.5. You could do substitution where you solve for one of the variables and then you substitute that into the other equation. What I want to do is just literally add both of these equations, because what I get when I add these parts is a negative x cancels with x, 3y plus 4y, y plus 3y is equal to 4y, and then 9.5 minus 3.5 is equal to 6. So this gives me, when I divide by 4, y equals 3/2. Well, technically, y equals 6 over 4, but I simplified it as far as I could. Anyways, not too bad. Okay, back to conventions of standard English. These are pretty common type of question. So, hey, you guys will get better if you study. That's why I'm here. So, this one's asking about the conventions of standard English. Let me just skim through it. It says both Sona Charapotra, an Indian American, and Donnell Clayton, an African American, grew up frustrated by the lack of diverse characters in books for young people. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary, a book packaging blank specializes in the creation and promotion of stories told from diverse perspectives. Okay, let me just read this. Let me focus on this specifically. A book packaging company specializes. A book packaging company that specializes. I'm kind of leaning towards answer choices that have that. I also don't want to put any punctuation here. Like, see, punctuation would break apart the flow of the sentence, which we don't really want to separate this subject from the verb that's occurring. Right, a book. So I'm going to say the one that flows the most smoothly to me is a book packaging company that specializes in the creation and promotion of stories. We wouldn't need the word that, for example, if it was like specialized, but in this case, we need to say that this company specializes in, this is a company that specializes in this area. Someone's asking about digital or paper SAT. I kind of prefer digital just because it's a lot shorter and kind of easier to go through. But if you're a senior, you have to take the paper test, unfortunately. Okay. Let's do next question here. We've got a logical transition. Okay, so transition words are another common type of SAT, digital SAT question. It says by 1936, Spanish Romani dancer Carmen Amaya was known all over Spain for her powerful style of flamenco dancing. However, okay, I see a contrast. In July of that year, the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War made it difficult for her to perform in her home country. Blank Amaya left Spain to perform abroad. Okay. So I see like a cause and effect or like a consequence here. The Spanish Civil War made it difficult for her to perform in her home country. So then she left Spain to perform abroad, dancing for audiences across North and South America. Okay, well, in comparison, as a result, first of all, or for example, I'm going to go with as a result because I see like a cause and effect relationship here, or something happened, and as a result, she had to leave her country. That's, really just look before and after the transition word and see what fits the best. Next problem we've got here. Last year, 200 students enrolled in an interior design program. This year, the number of students enrolled is 140% of last year's number. How many students are enrolled in the interior design program this year? Well, 140%. Remember, I just talked about percent being per 100. You think of the word century, that's 100 years. And so the word of also means multiply. So really what I'm going to do is take the 200 students and multiply by the 140%, which is same thing as 200 times 1.47. What is that going to be? I need a calculator. Or I can do it in my head. So 200 times 1.5 would be 300. So approximately that's going to be 294. Yep. Right. Not too bad. What have we got next? Okay. Some of these math questions are not too bad. You just have to figure out how to answer them. And someone's asking about this last one. So don't you multiply by 240%? That would be the case if it said the number of students enrolled is 147% more than. Then we actually multiply by 2.47 because you include the base number of 1 plus the increase of 140%. But the word of just means multiply. Right. All right. Next math question we got here. A gardener buys 2 kinds of fertilizer. Fertilizer A contains 60% filler materials by weight. I'm actually going to underline that. It makes it easier to keep track. A contains 60% filler materials by weight, and B contains 40% filler materials by weight. Together, they contain a total of 240 pounds of filler materials. Which equation models this relationship? Alright, so 60% as a decimal is 0.60. 40% is, of course, going to be 0.40. X is the number of A. Y is the number of fertilizer B. So that's going to be 0.60 times X plus 0.40 times Y is equal to 240, right? Because Y corresponds to fertilizer B. X corresponds to fertilizer A. And so that's going to give us answer choice B. Someone needs to get this cat under control for real. Look at her. Okay. Oh my goodness. Let's do the next one. This one's actually pretty simple. I think my cat can solve this one for us. It's asking if x over y is equal to 4 and 24x over ny is equal to 4. What is the value of n? Okay. Well, x over y equals 4, and 24x over ny is also equal to 4. So that means I can set both of these things equal to each other. And, well, in order for x over y to equal this, I would want n to equal 24, right? So the 24's cancel out. So, yeah, that's our final answer for this one. And what we got here? Oh, did you send a picture, Oliver, in my DMs? Or you can send it over here. Here, let me go to this. Okay, let me go to this last reading question. This is probably the most difficult one that we've got today. This one is asking, so we have a quotation from a translation of the poet Walt Whitman most effectively illustrates the claim. Okay, first I need to figure out what the claim is so I know how to support it with one of these quotes. So it says the poet Walt Whitman is an 1887 essay by Jose Marti, a Cuban author and political activist, written in Spanish. In the essay, Marti explores the value of literature, arguing, okay, I see the word arguing, that's definitely going to be our claim, that a society's spiritual well-being depends on the character of its literary culture, blank. And we want a supporting detail that explains, yes, this is society's spiritual well-being depends on the character of its literary culture. So we can just kind of do like a process of elimination here. Says, okay, first one says poetry, which brings together or separates, fortifies or brings anguish, which shores up or demolishes souls, which gives or robs men of faith and vigor, is more necessary to a people than industry itself. For industry provides them with the means of subsistence, while literature gives them the desire and strength for life. That definitely seems like it correlates to me about society's well-being, even though I didn't see the exact word spiritual. I do see a lot of, like, the main gist of this one is that it's helping society strengthen itself using literature. So I'm going to mark that one for now, but we can take a look at the other ones just to make sure that none of these work. Every society brings to literature its own form of expression, and the history of nations can be told with greater truth by the stages of literature than by chronicles and decades. Well, this one does mention the word literature and how society brings to literature its own form of expression, but it's not talking about how literature affects the society's well-being. It's actually talking about how the society brings literature. So it's kind of like the reverse relationship of what we want. C is saying, where will a race of men go when they have lost the habit of thinking with faith about the scope and meaning of their actions? The best among them, who consecrate nature with sacred desire for the future, will lose in a sordid and painful annihilation all stimulus to alleviate the ugliness of humanity. Honestly, I don't know if I really understood that one, but I did not see the word literature. I did not see anything related to society's well-being because of literature, so I'm going to eliminate that one. This one says, listen to the song of this hardworking and satisfied nation. Listen to Walt Whitman. The exercise of himself exalts to majesty. Tolerance exalts him to justice and order to joy. That's a whole lot of baloney as well. Like, they didn't mention the value of literature and how society's well-being depends on the value of literature. So definitely I'm going to go with answer choice A here. It doesn't say exactly like society's well-being, but it does talk about how literature can directly affect the desire and strength for life, which is definitely related to spiritual well-being. All right. Who's got another question for me? I think I've got spots for like 3 more questions. Yeah? Do you want to send it in a chat? Otherwise, I can pull a random one from my website. Random one? Alright, let's go. I've got this random SAT question bank, which appears to be not working right now. That's tough. I'll have to look into that. Answer Goose's question. Okay, yeah, we can go through some questions in the chat. What are good PSAT and SAT scores to choose to shoot for? It depends on the school, really. Like, some schools, if you want to get like a national merit scholarship, you probably have to be in a 99th percentile. Like, that's the top 1%. Otherwise, your PSAT doesn't really matter. It's more like your SAT that matters, in which case if you're trying to shoot for Ivy Leagues or like MIT, Stanford, you would also go for like a 99th percentile SAT score. But it really depends on the school. You should look at like the average and the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile and see where you kind of stand relative to the average admissions for that school. All right, we got some questions in the chat. Let me do one of these, Oliver. You always send me tough questions, so Someone's asking about subtracting fractions. Yeah, you just get a common denominator and then you can subtract them. Okay. This one looks like out of the scope of the SAT, but you know, we'll take a nice little challenge question. So we have a diagram with triangle ABC. BAC is a right angle. D is coordinates 1.5, comma 11, and line DB is parallel to AC. We want to calculate the coordinates of point B, and then E is the point on a line BC. Produced as the length of BE is square root 500 units. Find the coordinates of point E. Okay. Let me take a look. So what I see here is maybe I can extend this into like a rectangle because I see that line DB is parallel to line AC. So I can kind of have like this rectangle structure going on here where both of these triangles are equal to each other. What else can I do here? Maybe we can somehow use the distance between these points. So one thing I see here, if I draw out like a slope for this point, let me do it in a different color. If I draw out like a slope from here to here, the slope between A to C, it's gonna go down 2 units in the Y. Or let me actually use the point slope formula. I think somebody mentioned that in a chat earlier. So the way you can use the slope formula is you take your y2 minus your y1, divide that by x2 minus x1. So like if I set this as my second coordinate point, it would be 2 minus 4 for the y values and 12 minus 8 for the x values. That would be minus 2 over 4, or minus 1/2. Of course, this is also equivalent to rise over run, meaning that for every 2 units that I go over, I'm going to go down by 1 unit. 2 units over, down 1. And that would make sense, right? If I go over 2, down 1, over 2, down 1, I would get to x equals 12, but I'd go down 2 units to y equals 2. So let's see what else I could do here. Could probably extend up to here, or let's see. So I can kind of follow this path until I get to here. I also probably want to get the length of this leg from A to B, which looks a little bit tricky, but since it's a right triangle, we might be able to actually, let me start with that. We might be able to construct like a system of equations here. So the length, or let's say B has coordinates of xb comma yb. One thing I know, for example, is that the length of BC is equal to the square root of AB squared plus AC squared. That's just Pythagorean theorem. And then I can start to replace some of these. Like, for example, the length of BC is just going to be the distance between YB minus 2 squared plus XB minus 12 squared. And then we have that's equal to square root of, so distance from A to B is also going to be something similar, right? It's going to be YB minus 4 squared. And we have XB minus 8 squared. And we want to add in the distance from A to C, which is a lot simpler because we actually have numbers for that. It'll be 12 minus 8 squared and 2 minus 4 squared. So I'm actually just using distance formula for a lot of these. Then I'm going to move this over to here because we actually need a lot. Like, I don't think you'd ever see this on the SAT, but thank you for submitting. Now that I have, oh shoot, let me know if I'm on the right track, Oliver. But what I want to do next is probably expand some of this. So something like y sub b minus 2 squared. We could cancel out the square roots on both sides. We don't really need that. It's equal to yb minus 4 squared plus xb minus 8 squared. And we could simplify this 12 minus 8 squared as 4 squared plus 2 squared. It's just 16 plus 4. That's 20. I mean, with this, I only have one equation with two variables, so it kind of makes it tough for us. But let me see if there's any other information that we can use. I'm kind of leaning back towards that rise over run, right? If we go every 2 units we go back, we can get up 1 unit. So like some of the other points on this line could be, just by extension, we could have a point like, let's see, we could have 6 comma 5. We could have, so this would be 6 comma 5. If we go back another 2 units, we could get to 4 comma 6. That would make sense. Yeah, we could get over to 3 comma 7. Sorry, no, 2 comma 7. And finally, we could get up to a point like 0 comma 8. Okay, so 1.5 comma 11. Where does that fit in here? We could try to find, or we could try to construct a line here that's perpendicular, right? So I know that, okay, let me do some more. Let me block this off for now. I know that one of my lines can be represented as y equals -1/2 x plus 8. Because we just solved for the intercept here by kind of just backtracking. And the slope we know is -1/2. So the y perpendicular should be the inverse reciprocal of that slope. And it should also pass through this intersection point. So 2x plus 8. Then if x equals 1.5, then the point D would be indeed at 1.5 comma 11. 2 times 1.5 plus 8 is equal to 11. So D works as a point in this line. Oh, well, if we have those coordinates, wait, I mean, we didn't even need that equation because we can just use the distance. Let's see. Like from these two green points together, that's actually the same distance as A to B. So if I draw this out in maybe like a light green, the distance from 0 comma 8 up to point 1.5 comma 11 is going to be, right, since we have like basically a big rectangle here, is going to be similar from A to B. It's going to be 8 comma 4 up to xb comma yb. And what I notice here is that this goes up by 1.5 on the x, and it goes up by 3 on the y. So I'm going to say that this is equal to 9.5 comma 7, the coordinates of point B. Let me know if that's correct. I bet you have the answer key, right? Okay, that's a tough one. What do we got to do next? We have to find the E is the point on line BC, produce that such that length BE equals 500 units. Okay. Find the coordinates of point E. Yeah, 9.5 comma 7. Nah, come on. Tell me that's right. Nah. Sure, give me the answer, and I'll see if I can find a mistake. 2.75, 9.75 is B. Okay. I don't really see how that makes sense if A is at 8 comma 4, because 2.75, 9.75 would be somewhere like way back here. And if the angle is a right angle, the point would have to be further out here. Do you have any work for that? Find coordinates of point B. Yeah. Okay. Use a dB equation. Okay. What do you mean solve for the dB equation? I mean, we can draw this out on like Desmos or something, but what I see here is okay. Oops. If we have the okay, point slope, sure. But if we have the point 1.5 comma 11 as point D, and then we have the point A equals 8 comma 4, C equals 12 comma 2. What I said, yeah, I'll take a look in a sec. I'm saying B is equal to 9.5 comma 7. And you said the equation was y minus 11 equals negative 1, x minus 1.5. Negative 11. Okay, where did you get the minus 1 in your point slope formula? From the point of dB. I'm not really sure what you mean, because dB is a line. Are you sure the slope shouldn't be negative 1/2? Because that's what I've calculated, right? Hey, workaholic. So right here, between A and C, yeah, slope of AC is negative 1/2. Sure, we can go over it again. So 2 minus 4 divided by 12 minus 8 is negative 1/2. Between A and C, that's going to be the slope. I'll paste in all the work I've got so far for anybody who can't see the screen. Right now we're trying to find point B. Based on my diagram, I've got 9.5 comma 7. And I've got the slope of AC is -1/2. I'm going to roll with that if anyone wants to back me up on that slope. I'm going to keep going here. So the next question asked, find the coordinates of point E such that BE is length 500 units. Well, first I can find a slope. I can kind of find an equation for this line BE. This is just math. Someone submitted this question. So like for line BE, we know that assuming this is correct, point B is at 9.5, 7, C is at 12, 2. We could do something like y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. We can use point slope form. Y minus, well, y1 we could substitute 7. Slope we'll keep as m, and then x minus x1 at 9.5, let's call it. Or actually, I like the other numbers better. That's nicer. Y minus 2 is equal to m, x minus 12. The slope we can calculate. That's between C and B. That's going to be 2 minus 7 over 12 minus 9.5. It's -5 over 12. 12 minus 9.5 is 2.5. That's going to be -2. Okay. Okay, nice. Okay, good to know. So continuing with that one, basically we have our equation for this next line, which is that y equals -2x plus 26, kind of simplifying everything above there. What I can do here is take the distance between B to E, which is going to be square root of, let's call it x sub E minus, coordinate B was at 9.5 squared, and then y coordinates of E minus 7 squared. We want this to be equal to the square root of 500. I know that the y coordinate of E can be represented in this fashion as well, because we have an equation for that line. So that's x sub E minus 9.5 squared plus, I'll just substitute -2x plus 26 directly here. We can check that to make sure it's truly correct. I think it is. Squared, that's equal to square root of 500. We'll remove the square roots. We don't really need that, honestly. So we get x minus 9.5 squared plus -2x plus 26 squared equals 500. And honestly, guys, I don't really feel like solving that out by hand, so I'm going to have my trusty Desmos calculator solve this. Although you could solve it by hand. And what I'm finding is that approximately x is approximately 2.398. I'm sure there's like a radical root kind of formulation for this, but I was a little bit too lazy to find it. Then the y value would be -2 times this plus 26. So the y value would be equal to -2 times 2.398 plus 26, which is 21.204. Let's just make sure that that's correct. Like if we took the distance, I'll just check down here. Distance is going to be, or let me check in my Desmos actually. We'd plug in something like 2.398 minus the x. Oh, that doesn't make sense. Did I miss something? Because the x value can't really be that low, I think, for coordinates of point E. So let me check my Desmos. The line negative 2x plus 26, it definitely passes through B, C, and E. Distance between B and E is going to be the x sub E minus x coordinate 9.5, y sub E minus 7. Oh, I forgot to minus 7 in the formulation right here. So we need a minus 7 right there. That would make this 2x plus 19. And that would change the equation a little bit. So the corrected numbers is going to be... No, that's... What am I doing? Because that's giving me an even worse answer. Oh, no. There's actually a positive case for this one. Okay, so the x would be, in this case, 19.5. That's actually a much nicer number. And then y is negative 2x plus 26, which is negative 13. Let's go back to this question now, and let's say, well, the coordinate of point E should be equal to 19.5 comma negative 13, assuming that all that looks good. Now that's definitely gonna have to be our last one. Someone's asking about the concept of math most common on the SAT. I would say algebra. Thank you, Oliver. Now, this was a really tough question, but I kind of like it because I was able to get it. Anyways, no way this is on the digital SAT. They don't look like that. Anyway, you guys want to look up more test prep help? I've got Explore page at explore.advancedtestprep.com where you can see my newsletter, my YouTube, Instagram, whatever, TikTok. Definitely join in next Tuesday where I'll go over more digital SAT questions. Yeah, thank you guys. I'll see you guys next week.